All right, tonight I want to talk, my name is Alan Blay. I've been in the Corvette hobby since 1969 officially, when I purchased it in 1962. Paid $1,500 for it, and my dad's 64 Volkswagen convertible with 120,000 miles on it. I drove the Corvette 6 years, 7 years, sold it to a guy I met at Frame Chevrolet in Mineola. It was a 57 fuel-injected car in 1974 in the showroom. We were both looking at it. My 62 had no paint, no chrome on it. I was doing a paint job on it. He wanted the car. He offered me $2,200, which was about double what it was worth. Sold. Came over to my house a couple of days later with the payment, and I brought the car and ordered the goodies to his house. And we were friends for a long time after that. Documentation, I found out the car was sold new at Frame Chevrolet, because when I bought it, it had the Frame Chevrolet pot metal piece on the rear. A lot of dealers would put their name on there, and then when people got to be more vanity conscious, they would say, "Don't put your sticker on my Corvette," and they didn't do it because they didn't want to ruin the sale. Now, if we look at a picture like this, and we're going to document this car, we use, and a lot of times people get pictures of supposedly their car, and even it could be when it was originally purchased. There's things you use in the picture to try to determine what the car is. Now we know it's the first body style. We look in the photo, we can see there's leaves on the trees, so it must have been, if it was taken in the Northeast, it must have been in the summertime, late spring, summer to early fall. The house is a modest house. We don't see any expensive houses, so it was probably a while ago. Turns out this is 1953 Corvette, serial number 6.
Wow.
It was sold new to H.B. DuPont of the E.I. DuPont de Namur. E.I. DuPont de Namur was, they emigrated to the United States about 1800, and in 1802 they started a gunpowder business. In 1923, they purchased the majority of the stock of General Motors. General Motors was, there was a very nasty recession from about 1921, 22, those 2 years. And jobs were tough, there was no unemployment insurance, there was no welfare. You had to depend on your family. General Motors was acquired by DuPont because they were perfecting lacquer paint. Now, lacquer paint is not new. It was done in India probably before the coming of Jesus. It's a very old technique. But they used the cottonwood tree, which was part of the gunpowder business. They made a lot of munitions from about 1802 because they became friends with President Thomas Jefferson at the time. And the entire family, from 1923 on, controlled General Motors. And after they perfected the lacquer paint, they developed the aerosol spray gun in 1924. And after that, General Motors cars had a finish that was far better than Ford, because the Ford Model T, as Henry Ford said, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. And what they did was they took linseed oil and mixed it with lamp black, because not many places were electrified. There was, when you burn kerosene without enough oxygen, you got black soot, and you mix that with the linseed oil and they spread it on with a brush. Those cars really didn't have any kind of finish. But after the aerosol gun was invented and the lacquer paint process was patented, they had the nitrocellulose lacquer paint based on the cottonwood tree. And in 1958, we went to acrylic lacquer, and then in the 1980s, urethane came out. Ford usually used enamel, which is really, it's really not enamel, it's a different process. It's more like a refrigerator. But up until the mid-1970s, General Motors cars used lacquer paint. Because of that, the first Corvettes, number 4, 5, and 6, were sold by Diver Chevrolet in Wilmington, Delaware. The state of Delaware is pretty much owned by the DuPonts, which is fine. It's a small state, they can have it. But they do a lot, and they have done a lot charitable work for many areas. Now, this picture is a photo of the original purchaser of this car, H.B. DuPont, Henry Boleyn DuPont. He's probably the great-great-great-great-grandson of Eleuthère René DuPont, who came over here in 1802 on some ship and became an American citizen and so forth. The other guy here, I found out his name is Chick Chadwick. Chick is probably his nickname. It turns out, when I was in Winterthur, which is one of the gardens of one of the DuPonts, there's a tribute to him. He was actually the maintenance guy at many of the DuPont gardens, like Winterthur. And this was the press photo taken when number 6 was sold in July of 1953. July, leaves on the trees, and we know it's number 6 because it has the belly or wheel covers, which were the very earliest 53s because they didn't have the wheel cover developed. This also came from the Hagley Museum. One of my clients, I insure the car for his other cars, and he had acquired this car through one of the founders of the Antiquarian Club of America. And the car had it was not a baby car, it was used and driven, and it had 80,000 miles on it. And he restored it, he got an NCRS Stunt-Top Award in 1990. But that's a period photo. So if you can find a photo like what I do, here's another car I owned. This was taken at Palanker Chevrolet. It's a 1955 Corvette, serial number 548. I owned this car from 1989 to about 1991, a couple of years. I judged this car in 2007 at the NCRS National in Marlborough, Massachusetts. The guy that owns it today is in Florida, and I found one of these prints and some of the paperwork from the guy I bought it from, and some judging sheets and some other stuff. And I just shipped it all down to him a couple of weeks ago. Talk about making a guy happy. His wife says, I can't compete with you. But this is me at the Palanker show in 1990. I think that was the, I forgot which club it was, but I was giving a demonstration on how to put the side windows in. And somebody took that picture, I don't remember who. But photos can be very important. Here's a nice photo. Anybody know who this is? What this is? It's a 62 race car, number 69. This car was around Long Island. It was very famous. The guy racing it is a man named Francis Dominiani, or Frank Dominiani. He had a place in Valley Stream called High Speed Equipment. And he was Mr. Fuel Injection. Before the Corvette, he raced, he actually raced in the Watkins Glen Grand Prix of 1953. I have the program and he's listed in there. And I also have a video made of Thompson Speedway in 1954, and he raced them there.
Wow.
He built his own stuff. He was born in 1925, died in 2011. Frank was a master of fuel injection on Long Island. He became an expert in fuel injection. This car he bought new at Bass Chevrolet.
Wow.
It's a heavy-duty brake, quick steering, fuel-injected, 62 Corvette, which he modified. I saw it race at Bridgehampton in 1973. That's when I met him. And the car was owned by Jan Hyde, who he's in a lot of circles. Jan is a very avid race enthusiast. He's part of the contributor to the race car registry of Corvettes, which I get emailed to me, which others can do if you're interested. Jan had this car for a number of years. I insured the car for him, and he sold it to Mike Yeager, and now I don't know who has it. But it's a real, fuely, heavy-duty brake car, and with a great race history. And that's an action shot, I think, at Laguna Seca, because I saw it race there for the 75th birthday of Chevrolet.
How successful was that car?
Huh?
How successful was that car?
He did all right. I mean, was it a winner in Grand Prix and stuff like that? I don't know. But I know it was very competitive. And he bought it new and built it up himself. So. We can get into other things. There's many other, here's another 53. This was on a calendar. I know whose car it is by the license plate. This guy named Jack Reichert in Rhinebeck, New York. It's car number 80. And these are just things I know. And then we can move on to other cars, and then we can try to determine what's real and what's not. Like here is a protector plate. This is a protector plate for a 1966 Corvette L36. It's a real protector plate. It's not a reproduction. Unfortunately, there's a lot of reproductions in today's world with paperwork, because people know if you can document rare options or original owners that may be famous, like the DuPonts or anything else, the car is worth a lot more money. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the business that want to fool people. There's nothing new. Somebody mentioned sports memorabilia. Well, I was involved with that, as well as coins was my other hobby since the late 50s. Talk about fakes in the coin world. The rarer the coin, the more it's going to be altered. And people will swear to you it's the real deal to you. And today, of course, you have certification services, whether it's sports memorabilia, coins, stamps, antique furniture, automobiles. There's experts that will tell you. And one of my things is paperwork. I like to authenticate the paperwork. One thing I have here that I find interesting, I can pick up this. Now this is an original invoice for a 1958 Corvette from Kenny Motors in Brooklyn. Who in Brooklyn bought a new Corvette in 1958? People would say. But Brooklyn really wasn't as urbanized as it is today. There was actually a guy lived in Belrose, which is right on the Nassau-Queens border. And I grew up in White Park as a kid, so I was like almost out there. The main thing is there's a lot of things you have to look for on an invoice. This is a photocopy. And it has the options. Before 1959, there was no window sticker. There was no protector plate. All you got was an invoice, a warranty card, and that's it. There might have been a tire warranty or a battery warranty, but the two things you got were an invoice and a warranty card. And nobody knew what the car cost the dealer, and the dealer made up the prices. If he liked you, he gave you a good deal. If he didn't like you, he cheated you. You didn't know. Some people would look and go, "What? You paid this much for the car?" There is no breakdown. But we know it's real for a couple of reasons. Number one, and this is very important, the salesman. Every salesman that sells a car in every car dealership gets credit for the sale. the salesman's name has to be on there, okay? The next thing is it has to be marked paid. Even though people say, well, they didn't have time to mark it paid or whatever, everybody has to, when you buy something, especially back then, an automobile was a huge purchase. In today's world, they say, what's my lease payment, what's the mileage, out the door, and you drive it home. It didn't work that way back in 58. 1958, you put a deposit down, they prepped the car, you came back and paid it off. Nobody followed. There were some people that financed it, but most people paid cash. Otherwise, you didn't buy the car. People didn't think that way. A guy in 1958, this guy Jerry Goldsmith, I think he was born in 1908 or 10 or something like that. People didn't do finance cars. Sometimes they did, but when you're buying a Corvette for $3,800, which in 1958 was probably 2/3 the cost of a house in Levittown, you're not going to go, big deal. It was a very expensive car for what people earned. It's marked April 17th, 1958, paid in full. Salesman's name, Arthur Calhoun. So the salesman marked it, paid in full, and that's when you got this invoice. If people reproduce an invoice and they make up a dealer and they put the logos and all and they type stuff in, okay, they don't mark it paid, they don't have a salesman giving you credit, it's probably a fake. Now, could it be that they didn't put the salesman's name on and mark it paid? Yeah, but that's like a lot of other things. If it doesn't have the clues that you would want to see, that's not desirable. Maybe it is real, but it doesn't have a salesman's name, it's not marked paid, so it's not as good. It's like in the coin hobby, in the 1790s, a dollar was a fortune. You could have lived for a month on a dollar. So now, what the mint did was, silver dollars, because silver was so expensive, they weighed each coin. And if the coin was too heavy, they took a file and across the front of it to shave off some of the silver, so the weight was exact to mint standards, and they didn't give you a tenth of a gram more than you should have. And that coin circulated, and somebody saved it, and saved it, and saved it, and then somebody has it for sale today, and you see this $17.99 with a big file mark across it. And people say, that's what they did. It was too heavy, they filed off some of the weight. And the collector looks at it and says, I don't care, I don't want that. I want one that wasn't filed. They have a right to expect that. So those silver dollars that were filed command less money because they were destroyed, even though that was standard mint practice. Same thing here. Even though you're supposed to have a salesman's name, you're supposed to mark it paid in full, it's not on the invoice. Supposedly it's the original invoice. It's not as desirable as one that would be marked paid. The other thing is, all invoices were typed. Typewriter was invented by the Remington Company many, I don't know, it was probably in the 19th century. Of course, by the end of the 20th century, people said, what's a typewriter out of a computer? But all these are typed. When you see the options written in by hand, there's something up. And anything before 1959, there was no window sticker or anything. They just put that in. 1958 Corvette, $3,700 plus he gave them the license plate fee, the sales tax because it's in New York City, and deposit $38.62, and he gave him a $15 deposit. People say, see, people are going to laugh at that. But in 1958, most people that made a good salary made 70, 80, 90 bucks a week. All right? At 90 bucks a week, you were doing well. At 150, you were like a king. So 15 bucks, that was groceries for the week. So, really. So 15, he probably said, I'll take that car, I'll give you a $15 deposit. And then he probably wrote him a receipt, which we don't have, and then he brought in a check for the $38.62.50, and that was the price of the car, and that's it. Now, this car here, this 66, with the Protecto plate, this is a real Protecto plate. And again, these get more involved, but this, you have to really get into the fonts on this, because they use one of those addressograph things to punch out the name and address of the purchaser, and it's like a credit card blank from the 60s, very similar, and it has the engine number, the VIN number. But the cool thing on this is, I don't know if this is real, but this car was purchased December 31st, 1965, New Year's Eve.
Wow.
At Ken Dixon Chevrolet Buick Incorporated. A lot of General Motors dealerships would do, like Loyster Motors, they were Chevrolet Oldsmobile. They would have several General Motors brands, Cadillac and Chevrolet or whatever. But this is signed by Betty Skelton. Does anybody know who Betty Skelton is? No, that's Red Buttons. Betty Skelton was and if this is her, it looks like an Skelton. Betty Skelton was a daredevil aviatrix and race car driver. She actually drove the 1956 Corvettes at Sebring. She started a few years ago, and she did a lot of work for Chevrolet to promote the Corvette. A lot of Daytona runs. And if this is Betty Skelton, who may have been a guest there on New Year's Eve for people buying cars at this Chevrolet dealership outside of Washington, D.C., that makes this that much more valuable, because you got it signed by Betty Skelton. The story on this car is, there's a guy named Ernie Furbo, or as in Brooklyn they call him Pipo. But in 1986 he wanted to buy a Corvette. So I said, let's go to Corvette Carlisle, and they have a lot of cars there. I'm financially prepared and we'll find something. We found this car. A guy brought it up from Maryland, paid $20,000 for it. It's an L36 convertible, maroon saddle interior, and we arranged everything. The car was shipped. We didn't drive it back, but it was a great deal, a great car. And he had the paperwork. I mean, we have the protector plate, I have the original invoice. And then I insured the car for him, and he kept it he had about 5-6 years, and then he sold it to this other guy who had a bunch of cars. I insured his cars, and that went on for years. And then finally, the last client I had that owned this car, he sold the car, and the guy he sold it to said, do you want the paperwork? Because it was all in an album. The guy says, nah,
Wow.
I don't care. So the guy was, my last client that owned this car, he says, Alan, I have the paperwork. Maybe you'll be able to find this guy and tell him you should keep the paperwork or something. So I said, all right, give it to me, and I'll see what I can do. So that's like one of my projects. Now, the other thing is signed by Betty Skelton. That's pretty cool. If that car changed hands, there must be somebody that has that car that would love this paperwork, because it enhances the value of the car and enhances the collectability of the car. So sometimes you don't understand how people think. And then there's that old expression, the thing you don't want is to give it to him and he says, throw it out.
Right.
I mean, people would do that.
Al, I got a question. Protective plates, when did they start?
1965. Before that, it was a warranty card.
Okay.
Chevrolet always had a warranty card. Does anybody know what the warranty in 1954 was on a Chevrolet? Whether it was a Corvette or a Bel Air or 110?
12,012 months.
90 days or 4,000 miles.
Wow, wow.
They really should have that product.
No, that's not the reason. Competition makes things better. They didn't have to do any more than that. But when there was more competition, vis-a-vis television, I mean, television really exploded with commercials in 1953. And Chevrolet got a big boost from whom?
Dinah Shore.
Very sure.
Right.
Not really sure.
He wins a prize. Dinah Shore with her variety show, Blowing a Kiss at the End. She was absolutely the best marketing tool that any manufacturer of anything would ever want. And she had the personality. I watched her programs. I mean, she was just a great, great, great talent. Dinah Shore put Chevrolet on the map. The next guy to do it was Pat Boone in the late 50s. Now he's selling hot tubs or something. You can't get into your tub. He has these tubs. He's 84 and he's still promoting stuff. But remember, he had the show
About Bonanza.
Well, that's later. But Pat Boone in 1958 with the White Bucks and all, and Love Letters in the Sand, which is not an original song, that's from the 20s. Pat Boone was there, and in later years, in the early 60s, you had Bonanza.
Yeah.
You had My Three Sons.
Bewitched?
That was in 66.
Yeah.
My Three Sons, Chevrolet, and then Bewitched.
There was no Pontiacs in that show. Well, no one's out.
I Dream a Dream.
No, that was, yeah, I Dream a Genie. And then you also, but you had Bewitched. Bewitched was a big sponsor of Chevrolet, and I still remember one of the episodes. I mean, this is quintessential cool. This Darren hires a new secretary, and she pulls up to the house to pick him up and give him a ride to work. And what does she pull up in? A 67 Corvette convertible, 400 Air. You can see the ducts of the air.
Wow.
Maroon, right? Maroon?
And Samantha says, oh, she's going to take you right to the office, Darren, right? That line and that scene, everybody was on the phone with their Chevy dealer, I want that car. Right? So, Chevrolet was able, and many other manufacturers were able to use the media, television, to really sell the product. And then when you had all these people coming out and competing because of television and many other markets, they offered better programs until Chrysler in 1970, this was 5-year, 50,000 miles. And people said, don't change the oil, it's covered on the warranty. They make the cars better than ever. And then they were getting a lot of bad engines because people didn't change the oil in 20,000 miles. And so then they clarify those.
Alan, just one more thing on the protector plate. It also tells you the options, doesn't it?
Protector plate does not tell the options.
No? I thought it did.
It has the engine number, which is very important. And it also has the serial number. It has the key number. And it also has the trim code and the paint code.
Trim code, that's right. Yeah.
Alan, who made it? Was it the dealership?
Chevrolet had them printed. The dealer had the card, and they punched it out on this addressograph type. They used to sell those things. You would rotate the dial to each letter, and then you pull the trigger, and the tape would come out, and you peel the sticky off, and then it'd go on there. Now,
wasn't the metal plate though it was on a punch?
yeah, the metal plate was on a punch. That was a different machine.
I know somebody that had the machine.
Yeah, well, the main thing is when you authenticate these, you have to look at the font. And a lot of it's very hard to really reproduce the protector plate. Copies are made, but you can tell just by the printing that it's not the
This is the
original.
GM machine that he has.
Yeah, well, he has the machine that they use.
And we were playing with it Saturday.
Well, there you go. You can start making protector plates. Protector plate is really good. Here's the invoice for this car. Ken Dixon Chevrolet, December 31st, 1965. See, now this again is not marked paid. and it has no salesman's name. That's why this is suspect. This may not be an original invoice. This may be a fake.
Excuse me,
Even though it's typed.
what would a protective plate do for the price of the car?
Depends on the
value
car.
does it-
If
what value does it
if you
make?
have a 66, 300 horse, not a lot. But if you have a 67, 400 with air and a lot of options, it would be significant.
Like what? Just for example.
Protective plate, I would say 10% to maybe 15%, you know.
Well, the value would also go up if you didn't have anything else. All you had was a template, but you didn't have the window sticker.
Well,
You didn't have-
everything
you didn't have
is
that.
value, everything. The protective plate alone with nothing else, say 10% with the window sticker, the original invoice that's real, and any other paid bills, the order form. Now you're talking, for instance, Joey Lamberti, longtime client, good friend of mine. He's got a 67, 400 Air Roadster, 16,000 miles, NCRS 5-star bow tie, NCRS Dunto. Very hard to do. Unrestored, and a Dunto award. The car was bought new by the Chris Craft Boat Company. It's black. He's got the order form, the protective plate, the original invoice, all the old registrations. It was actually purchased new by, it was the Smith family. Christopher Columbus Smith started the company, and he had 3 sons. And one of the sons bought this car. And the Chris Craft Boat Company was sold in 1960. Was sold for $1 billion. Now, Chris Craft also made the duck, which was used in the Normandy invasion. They did a lot for the military. Christopher Columbus Smith died in 1939, and I'm trying to think, I was on the tip of my tongue. One of the sons took over the company, and under his leadership, he worked with the Navy to make the ducks, and that was used in the Normandy invasion. And then they had the Chris Craft boats, and a lot of watercraft was their fortune. And they bought this car. So now you have something else where not only you have all the paperwork, but you got this provenance. It's bought new by this family, and it was never used. A 400 Air Roadster with 16,000 original miles. 5-star bow tie NCRS, Dunto with NCRS without being restored. I mean, the car's incredible. I mean, yeah, he wants $1 gazillion for it. I don't know if he's going to get it, but as far as what is the paperwork worth, when you see all the paperwork that I went through, I mean, he's got a real prize there. And that's all part, that's why people go and buy a new Corvette, a 2019 ZR1, save it, because down the road, somebody will collect that, and they'll say, gee whiz, you got paperwork. It may not be the home run that a 67 has with paperwork, because other people may save it, but a lot of people don't save it. And when people sell something, they give, here's all the paperwork, what's this garbage, and it goes in the trash. It's a shame, but people do that, because they don't know. Usually, though, when people know the value of certain things, they'll save the paperwork because it really makes a big difference, not only in the value, but in the collectability of the car. Here's paperwork that I saved. I bought a 1977 Chevette. Brand new scooter. Cheap. No options. Here's my paperwork. No options. It was $29.99. Three ran in 1977. Here, this is the original, because I'm anal, right? You know. Here's the original window sticker. The car is probably a pile of rust, junk years ago or whatever. But here, now for 1977, people that have You have a 77 Corvette, L82 4-speed, that's a good combination in 77. That's the X in the VIN number, 5th character, that's the L82. And a 4-speed, that's a good combination, that's a valuable car. Now, you have to have this, that's the window sticker,
How much was that car?
$2,999.
$3,000 for that car?
And I drove it out the door, I used it for a year and a half.
I think they were like $1,500.
Well, back, no, that was the in 1977, that was the cheapest car I found because I had a 67 Corvette with flares that had a 350 pipes. Yeah, it was a Chevette. Shitvet, right? But the point is, we're gonna come up with something good here. Hoffman Chevrolet is out of business. It's a plumbing supply place. But the guy that sold me the car, his name is Bill Layden, he wound up going to Arnold Chevrolet, and they had Corvette shows there, and I bumped into him there. And he remembered me. He says, "Yeah, I remember you got this sort of shit."
But once you remember this.
Here's my original invoice from July 8th of 19, almost 7/7/77, the day after, 7/8/77, and here it is. It's B. Layden, and here's the salesman's number, and he figured some stuff, and free lubrication. I got great paperwork, it's just not the right car.
How long do you have the car for?
You gotta protect the plate.
About a year and a half, and I got
And
rid
it
of
fell apart, right?
well, somebody bought it because they wanted a cheap car, like I bought it. But I wound up, I didn't want to part with any of my money because if there was a good Corvette coming along, I didn't want to be shy. So I financed it. I got that.
That's so funny.
And then I got stuff that people ought to have. Motors insurance, they would write the physical damage insurance at the time. They were very cheap, and of course now they got out of the business. That's General Motors insurance on. And then here's my EPA mileage and all of that sticker, and the broadcast sheet. Whoa, 427 option. No. That's my broadcast sheet, or it shows how it was built. If that car had no chrome, the bumpers were painted, and it had no air conditioning.
Wow.
And I remember several days.
What are we talking about? I don't know, it's the back.
The Chevette.
Did that have a passenger seat in the front?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
That was an option, wasn't it?
Well, I went out with, I was a single guy, I went out with chicks, and I needed a passenger seat. I got a back seat too. Yeah, but, yeah, we always would do that too.
You used to race them, right? You those?
Actually, that car with the 4-speed, that thing handled pretty well. It was black wall tires, and I drove it everywhere. The only thing is, in the summertime, without air conditioning, your feet would stick to the pedals. But see, the point is, if this car were a Corvette L82 4-speed, you'd be talking about a good 10 to 15% in value because I have all this paperwork. But on a Chevette, even if I had the car, you're talking about nothing because nobody would care. But these are things that I'm trying to bring out. Here's another thing I wanted to show you. This is the first road test for a Corvette in Road Track magazine, June 1954.
Wow.
Okay? The point is with this road test, now these are the 53s that are going around the track. They did this road test at the Los Angeles Motorama. That was the debut of the Corvette in Los Angeles because Harry Mann Chevrolet was a very big player in developing the Corvette in Southern California, and of course in the United States and all the way down to South America, which is another interesting story. The point is, when you look at books on the 1954 Corvette, they give you colors and they give you production. And they would say white, blues, about, the white ones were like 3,000 something, the blue ones 300 and something, and then it would say 100 red ones and 4 black ones, right? And every auction company says, this is a black 54, 1 of 4. I say, well, how do you know that? I can just paint it. Well, when you go through this road test, which was done at the Motorama, Harry Mann actually gave them a 54 Chevy to use to carry the gear around. But the car they road tested was a black 54. So if they made 4 of them, the car that was road tested in here is one of the 4. So you got a rare car in a magazine and nobody brought anything up. So these are things where you gotta study stuff. You gotta read between the lines. Let me get into this. This is another one. I don't want to badmouth. Oh, this is a good one here. Look at this. Original invoice, 1934 Chevrolet.
34.
Bought new at the Flatbush Chevrolet Sales Corporation. Sold by Alfred Storms. Salesman Storms. Mark dated and mark paid. The ink is fountain pen. The ballpoint pen didn't come out until after the war.
Wow.
So it's signed in fountain pen. This is a photocopy.
Wow.
Total price delivered is $769.45.
People buy ties for that.
And this is real. And sold to Adam Kurz in St. James, Long Island. I mean, that's all it says.
St. James.
St. James, Long. He went in, he might have worked in Brooklyn, he might have had relatives there, there might have not been many Chevrolet dealers out in Suffolk County. He went in, it has the engine. Pardon?
How did you get that?
It's a car I insured, and he gave me a copy of the invoice. I couldn't believe the stuff this guy had on that car. I mean, see, if it was a Corvette or a Shelby or something like that, it'd be gold. But people with the sedan type car, it's like, it's interesting, but they're not paying double the price. But this is from 1934, March 31st of 34, in fountain pen. It's just ultra cool. Now the other one I'm going to get to a little bit, and everybody knows this guy, Glenn Spielberg. He has the DX race car, the first L88. And
Well, they don't know. They know that he owns the Astoria Chaz car.
Well, that's a different car.
Right.
But I was involved with this car because Dave Dempsey, when I was in Waikoloa, did a lot of racing. Dave Dempsey was the competition guy. And he had a 67 435, he had a 64 that he wrecked, and then he bought this car. And it was called the race car. Nobody knew what it was, but we took it out to Bridgehampton, and I saw it roll a couple of times in 1976. Was the last time it actually rolled, and it was going to be wrecked. And a guy offered him $1,000 for the J56 brakes, and he was going to scrap the car and sell the brakes with the brake package, but he decided to keep the car and rebuild it. And smart thing, and he did, because I helped Carol and Richard Prince buy it, and they sold it to Glenn. The car was never registered. I insured the car for Dave in 1987, and he went to DMV and registered it for the first time. Most race cars, there's 2 things about a real race car. Number one, it's never been registered. If it's a serious competition car, usually, not always, but usually they won't register. There's no need to. It was raced by the DX Oil Company. They didn't have to. And number 2, race cars are usually ordered white, so you can put the graphics on there. if you order them like the Barrett Jackson L88 that sold a couple of years ago, it's red, and they come up with some story, it was bought for the 18th birthday, so that's bullcrap. All the L88s in '67 were sold to professional racers, that's my opinion. Usually not Joe Blow, it's like a corporation. Sunray DX was one of the Shelby Cobras, the same thing. The SC competition 427 Cobras were sold to companies that raced, like Essex Wire. They got one of them. And a lot of people I know that are into Shelby's, they dreamt of buying the car. And I said, look, you should have bought it last year, it was $500,000, now it's $1 million. Forget about it. Now, Glenn gave me a copy of this invoice, because actually, maybe the Princes did. But again, the salesman is Don Yenko. Don Yenko owns the dealership, he's not a salesman. The other thing is, it's dated March 9th of '67. Now, March 9th of 1967 was the day they picked it up in St. Louis. And how do we know that? Well, because I got something else on that. I'll show you in a minute. So, whatever this invoice date was, that it's too early. And then there's a lot of modifications that they did to it for race prep. So you know that was done probably in May sometime, or it was gotten ready for Sebring, which was in June. So this couldn't be this early. So this is not the original invoice. And it was sold to Sunray DX Oil, but Don Yenko drove, and Dave Morgan. So I don't know what kind of invoice there was. But I do know, and I do have positive proof, but nobody ever saw this stuff. The Princes, I helped them buy the car from Dave Dempsey in 1990. They paid $25,000 for it. Dave made it into a drivable street car. See, this is what happens. Nobody takes the car, puts it in the garage, and go, oh my gosh, 2,800 miles, never touched. No, I don't, a lot of those stories I don't believe. But this car here was really crashed a gazillion times. And that's what race cars are. If it wasn't raced and it's preserved intact, then you don't have the excitement of a race car. Now we have his General Motors Acceptance Corporation invoice deal for the dealership, and it has the VIN numbers of all the cars. And when I look at this, I see VIN number 12805, that's the VIN number of this 67 coupe. It has a special invoice number, BS, and then 5 zeros 19. It says date of delivery, March 9th of '67. This is from General Motors Acceptance Corporation. The invoice to Yenko Chevrolet is like, pay us, please. You owe us $90,000 for all the cars you bought or whatever. Send the payment. And the price, their cost was $46.73, and then they're charging them 6% interest. So the longer it takes you to pay, we're getting interest on it. The good thing about this is it lists all the cars the dealership sold in the month of March. So here's, by the prices, we can see, here's a car, a Corvette for $46.27. Turns out this is an L89, one of 16. We know one of 16 L89s built in 1967, okay, was sold through Yenko Chevrolet by this. And we know the VIN number. It's car number 6424. So if that car is out there, I don't care what shape it's in. If I can buy that car for 50 grand, guess what? I bought a real L89, one of 16. I'll stamp a motor, put it in, call me out on this restamp. I got proof that that is an L80, one of the 16 L89s, a very valuable car. Then we have other letters. Like here's one from Joe Pike, because Don Yenko this is the first L88. Now, in 68, it was also a competition type car. 69, the L88 was sold more toward club members and things like that. So here's Joe Pike saying, keep patient. I know you really want it, but because they wanted to finish it in time for Sebring. Oh, he wanted to thank them for buying it. And then we have other papers here, letters, other purchases after Sunray DX raced it. And then we have pictures, the racing ID card for SCCA. And then we have the Emerald logbook. If you got a race car, you got to get the logbook. If you don't have a logbook, you don't have it. And then here's another thing with the logbook. And then here's a letter to Dave Morgan talking about, because Dave Morgan was the co-driver. And he says, we'll be picking it up on the 8th and the 9th. He says, bring a suit on the plane because they're going to want to take pictures. It's a big deal. So here's the car today. I mean, this is 25 years ago when they finished the restoration. Mitty Miller posed with it and all of that. But it's really, the more documentation you can get on a car, the more stories, paperwork, whatever, in my opinion, the more valuable it is. And it takes time, but the end result is you'll have something that's more enjoyable to drive and show and collect, and something that should be more valuable if you ever decide to sell it or have to sell it or whatever.
Hey, Alan, real quick, we're running out of time, but I know I promised Joe, can you just touch base real quick on a 63 only?
63 is, I had a 63 Fuelie convertible. I had all the original paperwork, the invoice, there was a warranty card. It's like this, there's no protective plate. The main thing you want to get is a real invoice. If you get it, fine. If you don't, there's a warranty card. There was another thing, there was a shipper copy, and I had it, would give you the options and prices. I had that. I sold that car last year at auction. Didn't bring a lot, brought 82,000 each. I thought it would be worth a lot more than that. But 63 coupe is a hot item, 63 convertible is not. But whatever paperwork you have is good paperwork. And if you don't have any paperwork, get old registrations, old insurance cards, old photos of the car, whatever is available. Most people don't save paperwork because when the car is sold, the warranty book, the protective plate is no longer valid, so they say, why keep it? And the invoice is very fragile. And these things were just like tissue paper, and they were chopped.
When I bought the car, it was every plate was with the car, every license plate. And the lady wouldn't give me the plates. She wouldn't sell me them or anything. They were all there in the garage. She said, I'll let you have 2 sets of plates. So I took the original 64 plate that was on the 63, and I took a 67 plate. But she kept every other plate, the lady.
Well, sometimes people like that as a decoration.
Decoration, it's in her garage, she's gonna get thrown out when she dies. So you kidding me?
Well,
Yeah.
that's why you can't let these people slide off the rock, because they have something that you need, and even though they won't give it up, give it up. All right, you want it, even though they won't give it up, you have to keep after them, because what happens is, like you say, forget about dying. They'll sell the house, and the plates will go in the garden.
I only want one of the 2, because in Maryland there was 2 plates, front and rear. You just want one, you keep the other one, I don't give a shit.
Some
won't sell it.
You know, there was a guy that had a car dealership, and I spotted one of those things for the, on the back, like frame Chevrolet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I spotted one for the dealership. The guy really wanted it because, his grandfather started the business in the 20s. And he offered him like $800 for it. I mean, we started at $100 and we worked our way up to $800. The guy that had it on his car said, no. And I said, see, psychology is that people will think that if you're offering 800, it's worth 15.
Right.
There was a guy, this is talking about 63s, Freddie Crowder, I know him 40 years. He had a 63 Fuelie that he bought. It came from the Glass Car Company in New Jersey, Larry Metrobo. He bought it in 1976, paid $5,500 for it, and it was Daytona interior. And we took it to a lot of shows back then. There was no NCRS involved. It wasn't a household or whatever. And a lot of people would ask for paperwork. And, oh, I know what it was. He didn't have the roller gas door. Somebody replaced the gas door with a later one. The 63, the early one, it had this little tab and it had a little wheel on it. So when you pull it up to put gas in there, the wheel would roll up. And then I guess they broke and rolled, so they redesigned, Chevrolet redesigned it later in the year to just a push tab. We spotted a 63 convertible at the Chevy Showdown in 1980. It had mag wheels, flares, and everything, and it had a perfect roller gas door on it. So he goes up to the guy and he says, you know, I need one for my car. I got a 63 Fuelie, it's Concord, it's all original, it's that. I'd like to buy it. I'll give you $400 for it. And he goes, well, if you're offering me $400, it's got to be worth $800. And he never got it. So you see a car with a 63 with flares and a wrong engine and all this.
And
it's got a mint, perfect roller gas door, and the guy won't sell it. So you're going to get stuff like that. People are crazy with stuff. See, because and the way I look at it, I was in collectibles. I mean, with the coins for years, and then we also had, you know, sports memorabilia. You got to watch out for fakes. We had a baseball one time come in, the 1936 Yankees, and it was all fountain pen. That was $4,000. But a lot of every Babe Ruth autograph I saw was fake. Every last one. A woman came in. I paid $1,500. I had it in my kid's room for years. I want to sell it. We call our guy, fake, because Babe Ruth didn't sign that much. So people want to believe, but it ain't a lot of times.
So the moral of the story is don't offer a lot of money.
That's right.
$25 and that's it.
Well, do you have a-
really, the way to play the game is to not. It's just like the best looking girl in the class, and you want to take it to the prom. You don't say, shit. You know, you can't. I'm sorry. I mean, you can't say that. You gotta be cool about it, and you gotta be the same way with collectibles, because the people that are not collectors, they don't understand any of that stuff. I still remember a friend of mine died years ago, 15 years ago. He had a 71 Corvette, bought it when he got out of Vietnam. He babied the car, and then, I mean, it never came more than 15, 16,000 miles on. He had the original tires on there, he had all the paperwork and all that, and the guy, when he met a girl, he would not take her out in the Corvette. He would take her out in his beat-up Plymouth Valiant. And if he liked the girl, then she got to ride in the Corvette. and then we went to the singles bars in the 70s, and all the chicks would come out, oh, Paul, he's got a Corvette! You know, like he's a rich guy. $6,000, they were ready prospectors. And he'd insult them, he'd say, you're a white tracker, you're this and that. It was all obnoxious fun. But the point I'm making is that it was amazing how he was Mr. Cool. He would not get all excited about dating any girl, whatever. And yet, he was not really a collector. He saved the stuff. He babied the car, and he did get judged eventually, and it's around 2000, 2001 in NCRS. And then he says to me, we never did do this, but he says to me, I want to go out for Bloomingdale gold. I mean, because people aren't collectors. They don't know what it is. They heard Bloomington, they're thinking Bloomingdale's. Or the other one with the gun tower, they call it the Doomcover Award. I got the Doomcover Award because, again, they're not collectors. I feel it's the job of a serious collector to coax people into selling them stuff that's valuable because they're not going to do anything with it anyway. It's strictly a money game. And if you start offering a lot of money, well, they'll think they get that philosophy. And that guy, I bet that 63 is out there somewhere with the flares and the headers and all of that. And that gas store is perfect. And or no, he went into the gas station, the frickin' wheel broke off. Jump, take that off, chuck it. And then somebody, his wife would say to him, a man offered you $400 for that, and now it's garbage.
Wow.
I know
All
we're running out
right.
of time.
Yes, we're running out of time, but
Sorry.
any questions for Alan, or?
Questions? No, wrap it up. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.